What's up, you guys? Ready for Chapter 9? Reading from Mental Chemistry by Charles F. Haanel. This time, I am listening to Enhance Intelligence, Increase Brain Power by Subliminal Binaural Beats. This session is here to assist you to sharpen your mental capabilities and successfully and creatively face the challenges you are dealing with. The frequencies are 14 Hz and 20 Hz, beta brainwaves. Both are related to mental clarity of thought and intelligence enhancement. Awesome. So let's get started. Chapter 9, Economics. Senator Wadsworth recently said, "I pray that the time will come when American public opinion will come to an appreciation of what organic chemistry means, of what research means, in the way of progress. We have been interested as a propel in the development of material resources, the digging of iron and coal from the ground, the raising of crops from the surface, and the engaging in transportation and other forms of commercial effort. As a people, we have paid little attention and given little encouragement to scientific research. But Mr. President and Senators, the progress of the future depends upon scientific research. It is the man working in the chemical laboratory who is to blaze the way for human progress." He went on to say, "I believe that in organic chemistry lies the solution of the secrets of the past and of the future. I believe that its establishment and maintenance in this country, even under an embargo, means the happiness, the progress, and the security of 100 million people." Senator Frelinghuysen added, "When we realized that it was due to the genius of the German chemists and the advance in the science of the German industries that enabled Germany to get almost to the Channel ports, when we realized that the next war will be fought with chemicals, I think it is our patriotic duty to give this industry the highest protection that can be imposed. It is true that many of the more important discoveries in science are due to the genius of German chemists. It is also true that the next war, if there be one, will be fought with chemicals, but the next and all future wars will be won by an understanding of mental chemistry. But the next and all the future wars will be won with the understanding of mental chemistry. We are the future. Come with me. We're learning who we are. We're figuring it out." Try to realize the situation. Think for a moment. See an army of men pass in review, 4 abreast, all men in the prime of life. See them march on and on, men from Germany, men from France, from England, from Belgium, from Austria, from Russia, from Poland, from Romania, from Bulgaria, from Serbia, from Turkey, yes, and from China, Japan, India, New Zealand, Australia, Egypt, and America. On they go, marching all day long, all the next day and the day after. All the week they keep coming, and the next week, and the next week, and the next month. For if we would take months for this army of 10 million men to pass any given point, all dead and dead only because a few men in high places were more concerned about organic chemistry than they are about mental chemistry. All dead. People are dying. That people are fighting each other. You know, behind the mask we wear, you and I are one. All dead and dead, only because a few men in high places were more concerned about organic chemistry than they were about mental chemistry. They did not know that force can always be met with equal or superior force. They did not know that the higher law always controls the lower law. and because intelligent men and women allowed a few men in high places to control their thinking processes, the entire world must sit back in sackcloth and ashes, for the living will find it necessary to work the rest of their lives in order to even pay the interest on the obligations assumed, and their children will find these obligations an inheritance, and they in turn will pass them on their children and their children's children. Marion Leroy Burton, president of the University of Michigan, says, "Perhaps the most solemn question that can be put to a person today is, can you think? The test of individual efficiency and usefulness to society centers in a man's ability to use his mind. Emerson never erected a more arresting danger signal than when he exclaimed, before when the great God lets loose a Emerson never erected a more arresting danger signal than when he exclaimed, beware when the great God lets loose a thinker on this planet. If we could only harness the mental power of America today, we could solve the gigantic problems of the world. And that is what we're here to do. Me and you. We have everything we need. God is our supply. Not by appeals to prejudice and class interest, not by the hurlings of epithets, not by the ready acceptance of half-truths, not by superficial, but by careful, painstaking scientific scholarly thought, combined with wise and timely action, will civilization be rescued and human freedom made secure. Upon education depends the future of democracy. Therefore, every loyal citizen, every self-respecting person must utilize this opportunity to strengthen his grip on knowledge, to stimulate his mind. The truth has always made men free, and truth is available only for him who thinks. That people are beginning to think is evident. Formerly, when men are discontented or dissatisfied, they met in their nearby saloon, had a few drinks, and promptly forgot their discontent and dissatisfaction. The situation is very different under existing conditions. Men spend their time reading, studying, and thinking, and the more they think, the less satisfied they become. Yeah, tell me about it. We are the future. We are the ones who are going to change things. And this is how we are going to do it. We're not born to live at a job for it's very unfortunate that people had to go through that. But now's the time. Now's the time for it to change. This is how we are doing it. Guaranteed. We owe it to our family and our friends, to the world. Leaders of men all know this. For this reason, England has her ale, Scotland her whiskey, France her absinthe, Germany her beer, and we of America, who are recruited from all of these, have had all forms of alcohol. It is by far the easiest way of keeping the people happy and contented. A man who has access to a fair percentage of alcohol will not ask too many questions if he does give him another drink. Story of my life. We've all had our own. This method of reducing the citizens of a country to a kind of idiotic servility has the additional advantage in that it produces enormous revenues, which may be used for reducing men to economic slavery as well as spiritual slavery. For the man who cannot think has but small prospect of ever coming into an understanding of spiritual truth. But because the opium traffic furnishes millions of revenue of Englishmen, millions of Chinese must be sacrificed. And because the sale and distribution of alcohol furnishes dollar accounts for large banks and trust companies, $100,000 fees for corporate attorneys, because it makes it possible to lead large masses of men to the polls for the purpose of voting for political parties who are both morally and politically bankrupt. There are those who would again inflict this deadly curse upon the citizens of our country. They're infecting us. They're infecting us. We will not be infected. They're controlling us. They're making us pay taxes to fund their wars, to help them control others. Dr. Woods Hutchinson tells us that the death rate for the United States has fallen in the last 3 years from 14.2 to 12.3 a thousand, which represents a saving of over 200,000 lives a year since the brewer's business was closed down. Since the brewer's business was closed down, over 200,000 lives were saved. Almost unanimous reports from public school teachers, school and district nurses, welfare workers among the poor, intelligent, police chiefs, and heads of charitable organizations show that never, in all their experience, has there been so striking an improvement on the feeding, the clothing, the general comfort and welfare of school children as within the last 2 years. And you know, school nowadays, they're taking out educations. It's not real education. They're not teaching us real stuff. They're even taking out the PE program. You know, ever since I did my NASM course, I thought I wanted to be a trainer because I wanted to teach people how their body works and how to be healthy. But you know, I realized that this only gave me a key. You know, it brought me to full circle, because we are multidimensional beings. Mind, body, and spirit. Spiritual beings that have a mind that is living inside of a body. You and I, we have the power. For the first time in history, the next generation of kids are not expected to outlive the generation before them. 80% of this population has chronic conditions. Chronic conditions simply because they're not eating right. Simply because they're feeding us all this crap. You know, we are our own universe within ourselves. Each cell in our body is their own living entity. You as consciousness, you are the creator. This body is your temple. If all these cells have their own mind, their own life, how are you not created in the likeness and image of the whole entire universal? You're teaching your cells. That's how you remember. Your brain cells, they're living things, and they feed off your thoughts. Your body, your cells. And yet there are those who favor the modification of the Volstead Act. There is probably not a single individual in existence whose thinking processes are in such an infantile stage of development that he does not know that when a door has been partly opened, it requires but the pressure of the little finger to push it wide open. So that modification is but another word for annulment, with all of its physical, mental, moral, and spiritual degradation and disaster. And all of the sorrow, suffering, infamy, shame and horror which this most monstrous curse has inflicted upon suffering humanity. They are changing our states of consciousness. They are altering our energy systems. It is important that you remain in the subtle consciousness, because you are the creator. So you are creating deliberately and cleanly. All this pain and suffering is due to inharmonious actions and energy currents happening within yourself. Physical, mental, moral, and spiritual degradation. That is what they've been doing to us. But they will not continue. Because me and you, we're going to make the most of ourselves. Just watch. Me and you, we're learning what no one is learning. We're reading what no one is reading. We're becoming who no one is becoming. We're doing what no one is doing. There can be no argument on the assertion that this country is in need of constructive legislation and administration as never before. There never was a time in our history when sound judgment, broad vision, great knowledge, and practical initiative were so necessary to the preservation and promotion of our national and individual welfare. There never was a time when statesmanship and leadership of the highest qualities were so essential to our advancement and prosperity. The country has before it, and has long had, an impressive proof of the futility and mediocrity in government under the conditions that have oppressed us since the war. It has seen a Congress without leadership, hopelessly confused by the tremendous problems that confront it, accomplishing little toward their solution, and that little badly. There never has been a time, we repeat, when able, constructive statesmanship was so greatly needed, and there never has been a time when there is so little of the quality of statesmanship in office. The following editorial entitled, "Where Are We Going?" recently appeared in the St. Louis Globe Democrat. Whose fault is this? Who is primarily to blame for the fact that our resources are so small when our needs are so great? There can be no other answer to that. The people of the United States. The people of the United States. We the people have the power. It's not them. It's me and you. The men who are responsible for legislation and administration are chosen by the people. Within the people rests the sole power of election. That is a fundamental principle of our government, and we have no right to complain when our affairs are badly managed if we do nothing to obtain better managers. But what do we see in this perilous situation? Are the people seeking the opportunity Are the people seeking and supporting men whose brains and judgment and knowledge and character justify expectations of improvement in our governmental conditions? Most conspicuously, they are not. On the contrary, they are turning to men who are most lacking in the qualities needed for this emergency, to men indeed whose qualities are the opposite, men who are mainly distinguished, if distinguished at all, by their abilities and obstructionists and destructionists, or if they are new aspirants, by their capacity to condemn whatever and to propose strange and weird political nostrums for popular enticement. How is the government of the world's greatest nations and function greatly and maintain its greatness with such materials? How is construction, the supreme need of this time, to be accomplished by men who know not how to build, who do not want to build, and whose counsels are but confusion? And what is the meaning of this popular trend which sets these men in the high places of government? Undoubtedly, we think, it is the voicing of the great protest against present conditions, a great outpouring of popular discontent over many things that disturb and irritate the public. That there are numerous reasons for dissatisfaction is not to be questioned, But far from providing a remedy for these conditions, the course taken by the people must inevitably make them worse. The problems that are pressing upon us must somehow be solved before we can be restored and resume our progress. In their solution, we can come from constructive minds. There can be no disagreement as to that, yet it is not constructive but destructive statesmanship to which we are entrusting our affairs. Destructive. That we are entrusting our lives. Do you want to put your lives in the hands of someone? That speaks for itself. What is the best outcome? Yet it is not constructive but destructive statesmanship to which we are trusting our affairs. What is to be the outcome? The unit of a nation is the individual. The government represents only the average intelligence of all the the average intelligence of the unites comprising that nation. Therefore, our work is with the unit. When we thought... I'm sorry, you guys. Well, let me start over with that one. The unit of a notion... The unit of a nation is the individual. The government represents only the average intelligence of the unites comprising that nation. Therefore, our work is with the unit. When the thought of the individual changes, the collective thought will take care of itself. But we try to reverse the process. We try to change governments instead of individuals. But with a little intelligent organized effort, the present destructive thought could be readily charged into a constructive thought. Just breathe, Corey. We try to change governments instead of individuals, but with a little intelligent organized effort, the present destructive thought could be readily charged into a constructive thought, in which case the situation would rapidly change. 10 years ago, the security is